Recently, I was scrolling Twitter at 5 AM because I couldn't sleep. No, I wish that was a joke. And I saw a post that kinda caught my eye. I hope the next game kills this type of level design. It was 4 videos of clips from different Sonic games of that patented hallway style, hold forward to run type gameplay. Now, obviously, my opinion of it was, yeah, I completely agree. But something interesting sorta caught my eye when I looked at it. That's a Sonic Adventure clip. Huh. You don't typically think of Sonic Adventure 1 levels when you think of highly automated level design, do you? That honor usually goes to Forces, with Cyberspace usually following. However, as you'll soon find out, there's actually a lot of Sonic Adventure levels that have a lot more automation in them than I'd like to admit. But this got me thinking even deeper about automation in Sonic as a whole. What counts as automation? Is automation even bad? Are there different types of automation? What led to the obscene amount of automation seen in recent Sonic games? Well, rest your weary head, because today, I'm here to answer all of these questions in a C-tier manner as usual. Subscribe or whatever, as I'm trying to hit 7K before the end of the year, and I can only do that with your help. But anyways, let's start. So the first thing we need to ask is, what is automation in Sonic? Typically, automation is counted as part of the level that pretty much plays itself, letting you essentially take your hands off the controller. This includes scripted set pieces like loops, in-game cutscenes, the works. However, I'd also consider things like this automation as well. While there is human input required to progress, if you can look away from the screen completely, hold a single button, and make it to the end, I'm counting that as automation. Now, the only thing you may disagree with me on is that a lot of homing chains I'd say also count as automation. If you're chaining homing attacks from Badnik to Badnik, there's more often than not little to no precision or skill involved. Sure, you need to tap the A button a couple of times, that is human interaction, but if we're lowering our standards that low on what does and doesn't count as automation, I think there's another problem you just gotta come to terms with. Now, I think the easiest way to go about this topic is to start at the beginning. Where was the first instance of automation present in Sonic? Well, we don't have to look too far because it's in the first zone of the first game, Green Hill Zone. These little S-shaped tunnels act as ways for Sonic to gain insane amounts of speed and require absolutely no input once you're in. So that settles it, right? Sonic has always been automated and it's always been trash. If I call this good but Sonic Forces bad, I'm a hypocrite. Well, hold on. There's actually a little more to it. You see, while this section itself is automated, it has a purpose. The result of this small bit of automation is you gaining speed and being flung up into the sky. Once you're in the sky, you've got options. Do I keep holding forward and wish for the best, or do I attempt to drop down on a Badnik to Badnik bounce and regain even more height? You see, this is automation with a purpose. Its purpose is to quickly send you into the air, where it's then up to the player to decide what they're going to do with this height and speed. How you decide to utilize this bit of automation can determine a small bit of the following section. Most automated sections in modern games have a singular outcome. Once the automation is done, you're back on track. You aren't able to change the outcome of the following section by using the automation present, because it doesn't allow you to, whereas the tunnels in Sonic 1 do. Now, the next game to really up the automation was Sonic 2, introducing the fan favorite dash pads. That's a joke. Now, while dash pads haven't been the greatest in recent years, I'll defend them in certain bits of automation when I feel they serve a purpose or are justified. In Sonic 2, a dash pad means you're about to see some spectacle for a few seconds. Well, here it is. Without a doubt, there's no denying it, this is automation. I could make a case on how Sonic 1's barely counted, but there's no excuses here. Except, there is. You see, not all automation is created equal, and believe it or not, some automation can be okay, or even good? Now, there's a few factors that go into what makes automation good or bad, one of them being how long they are. Most people don't mind automation if it's short and sweet, because it acts as a really small break in gameplay, usually signifying the end of a certain section and the start of a new one, and it's unintrusive. When people start to get annoyed is when you have an automated section that has you holding a single button for 15 seconds straight with no flair or anything cool to it. Introducing Sonic Forces. The most obvious example is none other than Luminous Forest. This stage starts with you, well, I just told you what, over 10 seconds of holding a single button doing nothing. There's no way to speed things up, there's no way to change the outcome of the section, hell, there's not even any cinematic flair to warrant the runtime, as it's just boosting through generic enemies. It's boring. It's boring, uninteresting, stupid, and dumb. Now, if the rest of the stage had little to no automation, and we were left with just a dud of a start, I think a lot more people, including me, wouldn't harp on it so much. Unfortunately, just about half of the stage is like this. Individual bits of automation being long is one thing, but when there are multiple, equally as long and uninteresting ones in the same levels, the only thing you're left with is an X button left noticeably greasier than the other face buttons, and dread. Sonic Forces is the big culprit here, but it's not the only one. Shadow Generations is a game that definitely has its problems when it comes to level design, but in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty alright, until you reach the Doom Zone. Everyone was so excited when they saw the opening stage. Space Colony Arc was a full 5 minutes, it was really exciting, until the cracks started to show. The back half of that runtime is occupied with the cutscene leading into nothing but boosting in a straight line, and occasionally performing homing chains. I'll argue this is just as bad, hell, if not worse than what Sonic Forces did. At least it occasionally had a cool cinematic or had like 15 seconds of bare bones platforming. Here, it's nothing. It's that opening section of Luminous Forest extended to the full length of a Forces stage. And this isn't just a one-time thing, there's 2 more Doom Zones throughout the game. Granted, they are a little more interesting, however, are we really going to argue that horseshit is better than dogshit? At the end of the day, we're comparing poop here. So wait, hold on, let's go back a second. If Sonic 2 wasn't truly the start of the automation revolution, then what would— oh, it's Sonic Adventure? Wow, plot twist, ooh, plot twist, who would have thought? Bet you didn't see that one coming. You know, real talk though, it's all your fault. Sonic Adventure is a game that I do like, trust me. However, it did begin the domino effect of automation overuse in the 3D games. You see, Sonic Adventure had some trouble translating certain things into 3D, so suddenly things like loops became completely automated. This goes for other things as well. Badnik bouncing is way harder in 3D, so their solution was the homing attack, a way for you to not badnik bounce. This isn't really similar, except for the fact that, yeah, I mean, technically you are bouncing on a badnik, but this is not badnik bouncing. Pretty much a lot of things that required player input before now either require a minuscule amount of player input or straight up none at all. Now, I'm not trying to make a case of the fans are so much better than Sega, because it's so annoying, but certain fan games have figured out a way to properly implement these loops that more closely resemble the classics, as well as the homing attack retaining badnik bouncing. Sonic Team themselves, though, haven't really evolved in this way since Sonic Adventure 1. Loops are still automated, the homing attack is still the homing attack, and most of all, these levels still have an overabundance of cinematics. Sonic Adventure has a lot more of these than you might think, actually. Look at Emerald Coast, for example. There are plenty of automated set pieces in here that are purely for spectacle, but they aren't even warranted. Sonic 2, while still flawed in its own right, usually nailed down the idea that most automation should be a quick reward for getting through a platforming section or something challenging. Here, in Emerald Coast, we go through a loop, run forward a bit, then hit a dash pad, then run forward. It's a lot of automation that isn't really warranted, and a lot of gameplay that isn't as in-depth as you might think. Now, the one saving grace for Sonic Adventure 1, the thing that makes it so you can excuse automation a decent bit, is the fact that most of it can be skipped. I mentioned it in the previous video, but this is where a stage like Red Mountain shines. On its own, it's nothing too remarkable. There's plenty of homing chains scattered through the level, but the thing is, you can usually spin dash jump past most of them, and that feels really fun. It turns what would be otherwise a decently boring stage into a solid platforming stage. The thing is, other Sonic games don't really get this pass. In a lot of Boost games, there are a lot of homing chains, and while you can skip over some of them, it just doesn't feel that great. It also doesn't help that these are current-day Sonic games, and our main mode of getting from point A to B is still via homing chains. Something has really got to give, because I feel like we've reached a boiling point when it comes to the amount of automation and homing chains found within Sonic games. Shadow Generations, while admittedly having some of the best and most in-depth homing chains, also has way too many. This is a game that is pretty much 60% homing chains, and I feel like we've lost the plot at that point. Automation is best handled as a brief break in the action, a reward after a challenging section, something to give your hands a little break. However, when you have too many of them, you lose the point of them. Why do we need automated breaks in the action when the segment I just played was only like 5 seconds long? There is no reward for getting through sections of platforming anymore, because the sections themselves last 5 seconds and barely contain any real platforming to start. If anything, the roles are kinda reversed now. To me, I feel like the reward of sitting through these automated sections are playing the actual game, not vice versa. I think a balance can be struck. I'm not saying all automation is bad, but I don't like the way it's being handled, and I haven't for quite some time. I can pray and pray that Frontiers 2 will have a better balance, but really, only time will tell. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe. If you want to support me, then you can find a link to my Patreon in the description and become a member for only $2.50 a month. I'll see you all next time. Peace.